Hey everyone, it is your host Cyber, and welcome to another video. It's been 2 weeks since I last posted a video. If you haven't checked that video, you should definitely check that video. It's amazing. It's talking about the PlayStation 5, why you shouldn't get it yet. But in this video, I want to talk to you about PC. And if you're a new PC enthusiast and you want to build your own PC, there is one major thing that we need to talk about, and that is cooling. A lot of people posts videos, like content creators, TikTokers, etc. They like to post videos on how to build a PC, but what they don't teach you or tell you about the why you should do a lot of research when it comes to getting PC parts, building your own PC, especially the cooling part, which in this video I'm going to be specifically talking about. And I know it's pretty a hot topic to talk about because not many people talk to you about it. So when you buy a PC, you immediately go through all these troubleshooting issues where your PC is overheating, what you should do, etc., etc. So in this video, I'm gonna basically explain and show you some examples of in this entire video on what you should look out for when trying to buy a cooler or trying to keep your PC and as your components cool as possible, because you want to protect your investment as much as possible. So let's get started. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. Be sure to subscribe if you're brand new, and like this video if you did it. Find this video much more informal, so you know when you go out and buy a PC, you know exactly what to look for in your expectations. So there are different types of forms of cooling. There's AIOs, there's fully custom water cooling, where you basically, instead of having an AIO where it's all in one pump, you can build your own pump and piping, which is more expensive than an AIO and is more dangerous than an AIO, because an AIO, all you gotta do is plug it in and boom, mount everything, and there you go. With a custom water cooling loop, it's completely different. So you basically have to do a lot of things and measuring, and it can be very frustrating if you're brand new to water cooling as well. I'm especially new to water cooling, and I'm going to soon get water cooling on my computer, since this is my actual first computer that I personally built. I've been using pre-builts in the past, and they served me well, but I really needed something for next generation, and this is what you see in my PC right now, and I'm going to show you guys what you need. So we're gonna use my specifications as a perfect example of what you should look out for when it comes to cooling. My CPU is an Intel i7 10700. I think KF or F. I'm not 100% sure if it's one of the letters. I think it's F or KF, one of those two. It's a 10th gen Intel i7. We'll put it that way. And the TDP that it outputs is approximately 125 watts. This is being not overclocked. When it's overclocked, it doubles that amount, which, yes, if you want to overclock, consider of going for an AIO, then an air cooler, because it can support that kind of frequency of TDP. And if you don't know what TDP is, it's basically a frequency on how much heat the CPU puts out. So I can show you guys, if we go ahead over to Google and I put Intel i7 10th gen and I Google it, and we head over to the, I think it's right here, I think. Let's see this page. I think it's this one. Alright, so this is not the one. Give me a second. It's been a long time since I actually searched it up on... Oh, here we go. So, as you can see, I got mine for $319, and that's a recommended customer price. I don't know why it's customer price when it should be retail. But the TDP says it's 45 watts. But for what I've seen, is this a 10th gen? I want to make sure. 10th gen. Nope, this is the KF. 10700 KF. I have to look for the right one. I know I haven't been very much prepared for this, so let's see. Okay, so this is the one I have. So as you can see, the TDP right here, as you can see right here, is approximately 125 watts. And you can configure it down to at least 95 watts. And if you could also view this information, I personally leave it stock, so it's a stock. It's somewhat overclocked in some format aspect. So you'll see the temperatures when I show them to you. But 125 watts. Now you could get a cooler that can match the 125 watts. But it's highly recommended you're getting a cooler that supports over 125. I would suggest 150. You can go for more than that. But remember, the more higher the TDP, the more higher and the design of the cooler, the more expensive the cooler will be. Personally, this is the one I have. This is the cooler that I have in my case right now on my motherboard right now. It's a Vetro V5 black CPU air cooler with 5 heat pipes, 120mm PWM processor, 150 watt TDP fan, Intel EGA 1200, which is my socket, and all that good stuff. And this actually supports 150, so I could overclock it slightly on this heatsink, but the problem is I cannot fully overclock it, my system, because this is only a 150 watt cooler. Now the AIO that I want, which is currently in my cart, I'm not interested. Nope. Which is currently in my cart. Basically, it's $133 because of warranty and service, and it's a 240mm AIO. It's basically an all-in-one, and I really like it. So I want to get this one so I can be able to do overclocking and have my system last longer than what my air cooler would be. So besides that, if you look at my, I had downloaded a program called CPU ID. This is a free program you can get online. I'll leave a link to the description if you want to try and see what your temps are and see what you need to do. So right now on my CPU, let's see, where's my CPU? It should be on the top here. Voltages, temperatures. CPU is about 35. All right, so in general the CPU is about 36 to 35 degrees right now. On load, it can go up to 40, sometimes 50. And I've never seen it go beyond to 70 before. It used to when I had an older cooler. But right now, everything's staying in between 36 to 40. And the max is 57 that it goes up to, and that's the max for everything I'm going to go up to. So it doesn't go away that hot, but depending on what you're doing, the temperature may rise. So that's a consideration when it comes to TDP. So yes, having a 150 watt TDP isn't much and isn't the greatest, but it's enough to be able to play games without your system hitting in the $70 range. So with Asus, what they have a program called Armory Crate, and this is one of the best programs that you can have if you have an Asus computer. And basically, you can monitor your fans, you can monitor your clock speeds, you can monitor your voltages, your usage, etc., etc. You can also change your RGB in here and as well your fan speeds manually without having going to the BIOS, which is pretty nice. I don't think I don't believe you can overclock your system through here. I think you have to do it through the BIOS, but it's pretty nice, and it tells you temperature. What's cool about Armory Crate is that if it hits 70, I consider it as the danger zone, because even though that yes, there's a certain temperature where the CPU can reach up to before it actually physically throttles you, which yes, it does somewhat degrade the CPU over time, but it doesn't break it, because there are technologies inside CPUs nowadays that protect you from frying up and dying. So usually, what I mean by danger zone is that this little guy right here, this little number will turn red. It will not turn white. As white is good, red is bad. And if you set your RGB to smart right here, it basically goes based on your temperature. So basically, if your temperature is going to a certain degree, it will change your fans, anything as RGB into a specific color that you picked. Like yellow would be cautious. It's not bad, but you could go in the red zone. Red would be you're in the red zone, so you might want to either lower your clock speeds or do something because you are overheating. And then green would be everything's okay. It's not overheating. It's not in the cautious zone, and it's not in the danger zone. So you're okay. You don't have to worry about it. It's not something that you should be concerned. And it's pretty much great software because you can monitor everything. You can change your fan speeds. You can actually download your chipset through here, even including your BIOS through this software, which is pretty nice. And I can tell you guys, if you build your PC for the first time, there's not a lot of content creators that actually they tell you how to build a PC, but they don't tell you the specifics of what you need. If specifically they talk about what I talked about, if they talking about they have this processor, but they don't tell you. They tell you the TDP, but they don't tell you what you should look for when you want to build your own PC and finding your own PC parts. They just tell you, you find this, blah blah blah. It's not simple as forward. That's why when I built my PC, I follow a bunch of tech YouTubers. I forgot which one I actually follow. He is a YouTuber who likes to buy things on AliExpress and pre-built. I forgot his name. I'm sorry if I did. And I know that everyone is confused when they build their first pizza because they don't want to screw it up. They want to buy all the parts correct. It took me a lot of research after I got my CPU to be able to figure out what kind of cooler and TDP I needed. And I don't want that to be in your position when you're trying to build a PC first time and you want to find out, you want to go with air cooling, not with water cooling, because water cooling is either too expensive for your budget, or simply because you prefer air cooling more than AI because you have no interest in overclocking at all. So air cooling would be the best bet. So it took me time a couple of weeks to figure out what kind of TDP I needed, and once I figured that out, then I ordered what I needed, and finally I was able to use my i7. I had an i5 10th gen in here, previously 4 with an older cooler, and that actually works even with overclocking, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. But when I installed my i7 and with a TDP that I didn't have, the CPU was going into the danger zone up to almost 80 degrees Celsius. That is horrible. And that's very hot for many people. So I didn't use my i7 for a while, and then when I finally got the cooler, I was able to use it. So I was pretty happy. And I can play a lot of games, even if on slightly overclocked, not fully overclocked CPU, and I'm pretty happy. I do want an AIO, so I can be able to fully overclock my system to get as much performance out of what I purchased. And I did invest into newer case fans, which you also want to do, because though that your CPU fan may be doing the job of keeping the CPU cool, you also want to have as much as fans you could possibly have in your case, whatever case you choose, to be able to have the best cooling as possible. My recommendation is having a fan that's RGB. Everyone loves RGB. If RGB is your thing, then go for RGB. If you don't, then you don't have to go for RGB. But make sure you have a motherboard that does support RGB lighting, like AeroSync or something. And get a fan that at least has 9 blades, because the more the blades, the more cooling it can push through your case. Depending on the case you have, depending on how many fans you can put in that case. Each case is different, and how they are, it's up to you. Beyond that, This is what I wanted to make this video for. I wanted to inform everyone that if you're going to buy a new PC, this is something that I don't want you to invest a lot of your time in buying a couple of coolers just to figure out that the last one that you purchased is the one that you need, but then you spent all this money on previous coolers, which is either too late to return or simply that you don't want to go in the hassle to return them and to just lose $13-15 bucks. I bought one cooler that was supposed to be for an i7, but oh my god, it kept going into the danger zone, so I didn't use that one, and I put in a different PC that was an i5, and it supported that TDP up to the 10th gen, the one I have, the CPU I still have, and it's amazing. I'm hoping that you all understand about how important cooling is for your PC and how important it is to do your research when it comes to finding the correct TDP, or at least enough TDP to be able to allow it to withstand enough heat if you're playing a game or something like that. 150, if you have a 125 watt CPU and you get 150, it's going to do the job just fine. It's not going to overheat your system. Your system is going to do just fine. The only thing it won't be able to do is overclocking. If you want to do overclock, either increase the TDP, buy a new cooler that has a huge amount, a good decent amount of TDP resistance, or go with an AIO, which I don't have a specific TDP of which AIOs support anything. I'm hoping that, the cooler that I'm getting supports the TDP that my CPU does. Beyond that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You know what to do if you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did it, also know what to do. Beyond that, I'll see you guys in the next time I make a video. Stay rockin'. Peace out.